Good evening, folks. Tony Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. I want to go over the Hackett investigation. Talk about some new information that I just received. Good evening, folks. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. Tonight, I want to talk about the C.J. Hackett investigation, give some update, some details that I just received today in regards to the case and what's been happening. I got a report from a DMV report, something that the police officers fill out in a motor vehicle accident. And in that report, they have some information there that I wanted to share. I also wanted to go over a timeline that was provided to me of that night and, leading up until where we are today in the investigation. So I want to go over that and show talk about some of the details maybe that you may or may not know, in terms of timing, exactly where, the incident actually happened, what took place after the incident that night, the following days, in regards to the people that were involved. There was also AJ Solaria, CJ's best friend, or good friend, best friend, friends, right? Really close friends. And he was there that night and he witnessed the incident. And that's something that has, left him traumatized. I mean, I would only imagine that, anyone in that situation, especially a young boy, because at the end of the day, they're 16, they're still young. I remember when I was 16, I thought I was grown, right? But when you get to your 40s, you realize that 16 is a child, it's really a child. And so, he's been traumatized as a result, I'm pretty sure. And so, he's going to be dealing with that for many years to come. And so I want to talk about it because, a lot of the family or the family people that are close to the family, AJ's family, they feel like they have not been getting the support that should be given to them. That should be, they're not getting the reaction, the response from our city, from the mayor that they should be getting, right? No one's really talking about it. None of the officials, none of the news people, not talking about it at all. They're not updating us on what's going on. Nothing, right? If it's not, from the family and from AJ's family or from here, Basement Politics, you're not really hearing much about it. And it's important, that this information is put out there. And it's important that the families specifically, and those that are connected to the situation, are informed about everything. And so that's caused a lot of suspicion, right? And some of the details that have emerged have only led to people believing more and more that there may be a cover-up taking place, right? They're helping Stephen Dolan, who was the individual that was driving the vehicle that night that hit and killed C.J. Hackett. They're giving him this support as if he's the victim in this situation when he's not. He's not the victim. Remember, it's C.J. Hackett, his family, his parents, mom, his dad, AJ, his family. They're the victims. So I want everyone to always remember that. And there have been some rumors that have been spread or stories that have been, put out there, narratives to try and make CJ appear to be the bad guy, appeared to be the person that did something wrong, that maybe he brought this onto himself. He caused this to happen. And that was put out in order to muddy up this entire investigation, maybe make people feel a little bit sorry for Stephen, and that it was some wild teenagers that night that may have been drinking and been drunk. They're quick to put that information out, but been reluctant to put any information on Stephen Dolan. Right? And according to the detective investigating, bad things happen to good people. That's what he said. So I want to go show this report first. I'll be showing that in a second here. And this is the motor vehicle report that was produced by the police officer at the incident, at the scene. It was August 3rd, 2022. This is when it happened. The incident happened on August 3rd. It just turned August 3rd. It was at midnight. According to this report, the incident happened at 12:20, August 3rd. And so when I looked at this incident report from the DMV, I noticed that they had his license plate on there. So I was confused. I said, well, they have his plate. When did they have his plate? How soon did they have this information? However, what they don't have is the name of the person who the car is registered to, which if you have the plate, you can look that up. And I know that. I know that for a fact. They gave me a ticket yesterday by looking up my registration information through the plate. So they have the plate here, New York, GYK 1632, 2004 Chevy. And so why was he not arrested sooner? According to the information I have, he was arrested 38 to 40 hours later. He was picked up at work at City Hall. He was working in City Hall when he was arrested. 38 to 40 hours later. Why did it take so long? This report was reviewed by the reviewing officer was Robert Day. I believe that's 2/12 on August 4th. So if he was captured 38 or he was arrested 38 to 40 hours later, that means he'd be arrested. He was arrested on August 4th between 2:20 and 4:20. And I said I was wrong, and I want to correct myself. I said he was arrested 3 days later. That's what I was under the impression, but no, it was 38 to 40 hours later. So the next day, late afternoon, possibly 2:20, 4:20. So again, if they had the license plate number, why didn't they look up the information? Who was this car registered to? It's in the report here that was reviewed the next day at 1:12 by a reviewing officer. So I would imagine this report was written several hours prior to that. And on the police report, something that was mentioned by the assigned officer, they said in their investigation, they were only able to locate one camera. But I know from being at the scene myself that there are 3 cameras right there. 3 high-tech cameras. Well, they look very high-tech to me. Right there. Right where it happened. And so do they have that footage? And if they do, why haven't they let the family see it? What's there to investigate? Really, you know he was drinking. You got footage of him in the bar. They counted a total of 17 drinks. This is from the police department themselves. Then he got into his vehicle with a beer. And he drove down McLean, where he'd make a U-turn just before reaching the overpath there. And that was a fateful mistake, that U-turn. Don't know what he was going back for, but he went back, driving east on McLean. And that's where the incident happened. And there are three, I mean, I've counted about 8 cameras, 10 cameras along that route there. But directly where it happened, there are 3 cameras right there. So why isn't the family being allowed to see this footage? That's all they're looking for. That's all they're looking for. They're looking for answers. And the fact that they're being so, hush hush. And not only that, but also threatening. It's almost as if the family are the suspects here. Like CJ's family, they're the suspect's family. The DA saying, well, if you don't stay quiet, if you keep asking questions, you're going to make it more difficult for you, for yourselves. Why is that? Why is that? I don't understand that. Why is it that if they ask questions, it'll make it more difficult for them? And this report was typed up by Officer Katrina Simos. Simos? Is that Simos? Is that Wayne Simos? Anything to do? And so not only are city officials not saying anything, not being supportive, not helping the family get answers, seek justice. Not only is the police department not providing any real information, they also had to see and watch as Stephen Dolan's dad marched down McLean, the very street that this happened on, in the St. Patrick's Day parade, only a few feet in front of the detective that's investigating this case. Do you think they know each other? This is Stephen Dolan. This is his dad here to the left. His dad here on the right, and the detective that's investigating with the sunglasses here. Pardon me to the guy in the middle. I'm sorry. So, I mean, right down McLean. And sure, the father didn't do this. He wasn't involved. But it doesn't give the family comfort when he's marching down McLean just a few feet in front of the detective that's supposed to be investigating his son for killing CJ Hackett. Those 3 cameras on the property owned by Con Edison. Yes, that's the Con Edison building there. There are 3 cameras right there, and there are many others nearby. There's video that people have seen shows Stephen Dolan driving west on McLean before making a U-turn just before he gets to the overpath, then heads back east. They can clearly see his license plate. They can see when he stopped to look at what he had just done before deciding to take off at a high rate of speed. Already intoxicated, having hit one person and killed one person already. So if there's video that exists from that night that shows his plate clearly, then that means police had his plate clearly that night. So that means that they ran his plate, they knew who the driver was, and they refused to arrest him right away. Hey, Freddie, I'm supposed to sit down with John Rubo and Vinny Spano. Be careful. My schedule's conflicting with theirs, but they do want to sit down. Well, yeah, of course. Absolutely. It's very interesting that it's John Rubo and Vinny Spano. This could get blown out of, their control. And now this is what they're trying to do. This is damage control. This could completely destroy the mayor's chances of winning the election come June and November if he gets past the primaries. Of course they're going to sit down with you now. I wanted to just go over the timeline here. Just be careful. It should be about why is it that he was not arrested right away? And how do you undo that so he can face more time? Because as it stands now, he may get 2.5 years, maybe probation. This is what the DA is saying, maybe 2.5 years, what the DA is saying. Had he been caught that night, that would have been the difference from 15, 25 years to what it stands now at 2.5 to 7, where the DA is saying probably 2.5. And so justice for CJ, I would imagine the family will want this man to face the stiffest penalties possible. And so is John Rubo and Vinny Spano going to discuss that? Let's hope. Let's hope. So this is a timeline I was given that was created by, I believe you, Tony. I'll read it. As the evening, CJ was hanging out with some of his closest friends on Tuesday, August 2nd. Is it August 2nd? Did this happen on August 2nd or August 3rd? That's what I want to know. Exactly the day. They were all hanging out at a local park doing what most teens would be doing. It was AJ, Solari, Connor, I won't say their last name, John, Lenny, and other teens laughing and making memories. As the evening came to a close, CJ made his way over to AJ's house with one of his friends around 10:42. AJ's house is about a mile away from the park. AJ came home earlier from around 9 when he was struck in the eye with the water pellet. I held a full conversation with CJ and he appeared to be fine. And he writes that because they tried to imply that CJ may have been drinking or been intoxicated. I held a full conversation with CJ. He appeared fine. We laughed and he made jokes. I went up to bed around 11:15 p.m. and the boys said they were going into the hot tub. This was the last time he saw CJ alive. I seen CJ alive. CJ and AJ headed over to Coyne Park. AJ was on his e-bike and CJ was on his e-scooter, where they attempted to, do some stuff. being young boys. Being unsuccessful, they headed over in the direction of CJ's house on Hancock. They came out of Coyne Park and made a left turn headed westbound towards his home. They got approximately about 100 yards from the park exit, about near the entry and exit of the shopping mall. And that shopping mall is referring to as the one that has the Acme and the Dunkin' Donuts. And there's that corner entrance just across from the park, a little bit up ahead, just west, where CJ, the shopping mall, where CJ was struck by a dark van. AJ witnessed the collision. The driver stopped and looked at AJ, then took off at a high rate of speed. AJ tried to help CJ, but he was not responsive. AJ called 911. And so I want folks to understand what that child witnessed. I'm a grown man, and I was standing in front of my daycare center one day where I almost witnessed a young boy get hit by a car speeding down Lockwood. And I've told the officials as many times, we need something there. And I thought he was going to get hit. My mind said he got hit. And I started tearing up. The kid didn't get hit, but it was so close. And I felt shooken up by a near miss. And I only say that because I wanted you to understand what he went through seeing that. Or try to, because you're not there, but try to. It's traumatizing. And so where's the support? That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to be, an a-hole, a mean person. I'm not attacking officials. But have compassion. Have some empathy. The fact that you guys are not even supporting, giving any support, and only doing it after because you know that this could get out of hand and we don't want it to ruin anything that we're doing here. That shows that you have no empathy. And that's wrong. David Tubiolo, you're up and down that street giving out proclamations to businesses. John Rubo. You should have sat down with the family from day one. And that's all I'm saying. And that's wrong. And so when you guys continue to do things like that, you are showing the community that you don't care. Once the ambulance arrived, AJ took off and came home. I'm sure he was shooken up. When we then proceeded to the scene where we met up with police officers and Detective Cognatello. The detective asked us to come down to headquarters to make a statement. We agreed and met the detective down there, where AJ started to tell the detective the events of the night and including what happened at the scene. AJ told the detective they were headed westbound on McLean Avenue. CJ was going in and out of parked cars and was on the same side of the incoming traffic. He was making his way over to the right side, and once he crossed the double line, he was then struck by a dark van, which stopped and appeared to look, then took off. As we were sitting at the detective's desk approximately around 1 a.m. on August 3rd, 2022, a call came over the air on the walkie-talkie that a patrol car may have gotten the van. Detective Cognatello got up and left the room, and after what felt like a lifetime, came back and then said that was the wrong guy. And so that's a little questionable. That's a little, did they catch the guy? Because you got honest cops. They're doing their job. They want to get this guy, and they got him. And hold up, it's the wrong guy. AJ finished his statement and signed the statement, and we went home. Detective Cognatello called me later that day and asked if we could come by because he made a mistake on the report and needed AJ to re-sign it again. I said, no problem. And we came by and AJ signed a new report. Now, what were the changes that were made? He assured us that they are working hard to find the person responsible for this. Detective Cognatello also wanted to know if AJ moved CJ's body. I told him no. I asked him why. He said something was not making sense. He asked me again in another conversation. Again, I said no. August 4th, 2022, I received a call from a friend telling me they got the guy and he's in police custody. I was wondering what it was what changes they made and they wanted him to resign. I was curious about that. I got into my car, went down to headquarters and rang the doorbell. Detective Cognatello came to the door. I asked him if you got the POS. He appeared surprised. I already knew. Detective Cognatello then proceeded to say, unfortunately, bad things happen to good people. That's a quote. I was surprised at the comment, and he continued to tell me that the car driver is being very cooperative and is spilling his guts, and I have nothing to worry about him coming after AJ, and he would talk to his lieutenant about getting AJ a protection of order. But this guy is harmless and he would not be any trouble. So they're trying to, appear to be very like, yo, we got you. He's telling it everything. He's spilling his guts, he's being very cooperative, and we're going to see about getting an order of protection and having some protection for you, but don't worry, the guy's harmless, trying to make them feel comforted, like they're doing everything. Oh, we got him. Oh, he's spilling his guts. Okay, good. Forget about these details of what took you so long to get him. Is he connected to anybody? Who's his dad? Who's his uncle? How are they connected to the guy investigating? Right? That's what it's all about. I was standing there with the young lady and she heard all this and we walked away. I left, called someone and told them what the detective said, and the person I was talking to said, oh, he's connected. I said, no way. On August 4th, 2022, I texted the detective and told him I was offended by his comment about the guy being a good guy. We find out his name and also find out not only he is a city worker, his father is a retired Yonkers sergeant, and his uncle is also a retired detective sergeant, Yonkers cops. YPD released a statement about arresting the suspect that struck CJ, but no mugshot was shown until days later. Weeks later, a Yonkers school teacher was arrested for sexual conduct and his mugshot was released right away. A phone call came in from a friend pointing this out. So he started to realize his special treatment. When Dolan went in front of the Yonkers judge, he walked into the courtroom with no remorse on his face, and only concern was getting his van back so he could give his friends back their tools. When will I get my van? On August 12, 2022, Dolan was charged with leaving the scene of an accident resulting in death. Investigation going slow, but reassured it was going well. I was getting info from friends on the force and asking questions. September 2nd, 2022, the DA called me to tell me he was going on vacation with his family and be gone for 2 weeks. As he was getting off the phone, he asked me if I heard anything about a bounty on Mr. Dolan. I was honest. I told him, yes, I had heard there was a $25,000 bounty on him. He said he heard it too. Oh, interesting. So there was and was that a real rumor? Was that just something people were putting out there? Was that more like just a narrative that they're trying to create? YPD pokes a sleeping bear. September 2nd, 2022, around 4:30, I get a phone call from Detective Cognatello asking where am I? I told him I was on my way home. When I got home, Detective Cognatello was waiting for me with another detective, Detective Hollywood. They wanted to know where I was getting my information from. So they're concerned with where he's getting his information from, but not so much concerned about the details of the case. Not concerned with finding the cameras. the many cameras that are along the route. I refused to tell them. They threatened to arrest me. And this is what the problem is here in the city of Yonkers. This is the problem for a lot of people, and people are starting to realize it more and more. A lot of people didn't really know that things like this happen. But there's still this old mentality that still exists, and that this election, we all have an opportunity. And I'm not trying to make it political, but it's political. This is elected officials. And so how do we get them out? We vote them out. Too many people are scared, being threatened, can't get their businesses open fully, getting their businesses taken. It's enough is enough. Unbelievable. This is where I started to get suspicious of Detective Cognatello. Comes out and says that he did me a favor and I should help him. When I asked what favor he did for me, he replied, I left out of my report what your son was doing that night, trying to steal a sign. That's what young kids do. They do silly things like that. That's why they're children still. They're children that have a little more freedom, right? They get to go out more and be out there in the street, right? I was out there too. I said, I didn't ask you to do that, and my son told the truth. You decided to leave. Actually, I even left it out. I didn't read that part anyway, but yeah. So decided to leave it out, not us. Yeah, that's right. You didn't do it. We didn't ask you. So I got frustrated and I asked if I should call a lawyer, and Cognatello said, all we want to know is where you're getting your information from. What does it matter? So I said to them, you're threatening to arrest me for my source. What happens when I tell you who my source is and he outranks you? Are you going to arrest him? Interesting. They both looked at each other and left. As months go by, more and more information about the investigation is being leaked out. I hear Dolan tried to fix the van. I heard that he knew he was a person of interest and that the cops were looking for him. He was actually working under the cops' noses where in the detectives building, but I also hear it was City Hall. He found, Tony's finding out all this stuff, right? Stephen Dolan is a city employee. His dad is a retired detective or sergeant, or his uncle is a retired detective sergeant. Families, connected to individuals still within the city of Yonkers. And so, and the fact that they're being so secretive and not being forthcoming, what else are you going to think? What else is that going to leave you to believe? I find out that the DA Barrera worked in Yonkers for many years and has worked with Dolan's father. Can the neighborhood petition and protest? Absolutely. We all can petition and protest. This man should be convicted of manslaughter. Absolutely. When you make a conscious decision to get in a vehicle after having so many drinks, you become a weapon. You become a weapon. And not only did he have 17 drinks, he got into the vehicle with a beer. Complete disregard for anyone's life, any one of us. It could have been any one of us or any one of us, our children, our child, our CJ, our 16-year-old baby. And so we got to stop this. We have to stop this. And this is why I speak out on the podcast. I don't want anything but other than to get justice for CJ and everyone else who has been afraid to speak out, who have not been getting any support or help. And it's up to us now. It's up to the people. I started to ask questions, and the law enforcement authority did not like that. Why? If you're not hiding anything, then you shouldn't have any issue with the questions. I asked both Barrero and Cognatello, it seems like there is a connection between you guys and the Dolans. Can you guys recuse yourselves from the case? And that's when the ish hit the fan. Oh, they get upset real quick. They said no to my request and started to tell me my information was wrong and I'm being lied and misguided. That's what they love to say. You're lying, you're wrong, you're crazy, unstable. AJ gets called to go in front of the grand jury. The DA asked to bring AJ into the office so they can prep him for the grand jury. I said, sure, and I brought him in. We were greeted by Detective Cognatello and the DA and were told that Assistant DA, I could not go in the room with them while they prepped my underage son, minor son. I told them I didn't feel comfortable and they should at least have a lawyer. Sure. They said, don't worry, we're going to go over just his statements. And AJ said, okay. We leave and I come to find out they questioned AJ about other events that night. Not happy with this. So you violated this parent's right, officers, detectives. That's against the law, right? He actually requested an attorney. He requested an attorney. You guys refused him that opportunity. His right, that right, not opportunity, that right. Wow. I wrote an email to the DA, to Assistant DA James Barrero, saying I was not happy with the way things are going, but most of all, I asked to listen to the 911 call my son made so I can understand what he was going through. We came back in for a grand jury a few days later, which we were told was at noon. While we were waiting, the DA starts scolding me like a child about my email. Yeah, they don't like emails. Tells me he doesn't care about what I want or about the FOIL Act. You see that, folks? This is why I do this. I mean, it's completely gone out of control. We can no longer make FOIL requests. They make it difficult. They give us the wrong information. They take forever. That's not how it's supposed to be. And I don't care. And they don't care about his lawyer. They don't care about my lawyer. While he was doing this, he was looking me up and down. I lost my cool and stormed out with my son and his girlfriend, and after a few choice words. And so the DA is upsetting the victims in this situation. Why? Because he's connected to Yonkers. And this goes back to my podcast about the judges that are appointed here and why they're appointed and what problems that causes for us, the everyday people. When we have to come before these judges, eventually, like myself in my lawsuit with Mr. Zahi Jerris, the judges have to recuse themselves. You get DAs that will make you feel like the guilty person, the suspect, when you're the victim. This is how this family is being treated during this time. I treat my clients better than this, with more empathy and sympathy than this, and they had a fire. They lost replaceable things. And I have more compassion for them. It's unbelievable. We come back later after I cool down and after reaching out to Barrero his boss, and set up a meeting. I spoke with John O'Rourke. He calmed me down, and AJ went in front of the grand jury, and we left. Yeah. Dolan charges get upgraded. We were told that there would be several charges followed by little charges, and they only went for 3 charges only. I guess they told them they were going to go for a bunch of these charges, but again, they only brought 3 charges. Everyone was disappointed. We were all disappointed. Once again, we were lied to. And so again, that's the issue here. That's the biggest problem with the timing, the timeline. When did they know? That's the problem, is that makes the difference from 2.5 years and 25 years. And so if we don't get the full story and the facts on that timeline, which they have a camera there that showed exactly what happened, who it was, they probably got his face clear as day. And they let him go for X amount of hours so that he would not have this high level of alcohol, whatever else in the system, right? And so now he's going to get lesser punishment. So that's important. They lost their child and they want the maximum penalty. That's justice for CJ. I'm home relaxing. I get a phone call about the case and some basement politics podcast. That guy. And I should listen to it. So I did, and I started to comment, trying to get the truth out there. After a few days later, I get a phone call from Lieutenant Morello asking me to come into headquarters for a talk. So I did. February 2nd, 2023, I met with Lieutenant Morello, Captain McCormick. Keep his name in mind. I'm going to show you some things a little bit here. And Deputy Chief Morello, and we discussed my podcast. We spoke about several things. I was told to go home and do my homework. What does that mean? The chiefs asked if they had a plate number, and the captain replied, no. But they had a good description. But that's not true, because we know that there's video that shows the plate. So they knew the plate that night. Captain McCormick found the van on a sidewalk on the first day of canvassing. He then said he called the chief and they decided to put the van under surveillance. So Mr. Patrick McCormick, is it? Captain Patrick McCormick finds the van while canvassing. What they just looking for vans that fit the description because they didn't have the plate. They didn't know who it was. And then they find this van and then they just sit on it. And it's the right guy. But the guy they caught that night was the wrong guy. And why is the captain canvassing? Why is the captain the guy that's finding the van? Many people ask that question. That doesn't seem right. Why would a captain be out there doing that? Because they needed the guys that play ball, if you know what I mean, to be involved. Because they can't just get anybody. They gotta have guys that are willing to play the game. We can't have too many people involved. That's how the truth comes out. In order to hide something, you want to have least amount of people as possible, right? So that's strange. They said they wanted to control the narrative. They didn't want the wrong people getting to him. Who are the wrong people? Who are the wrong people? I don't trust any of them. The DA, none of them. The police. I don't blame you. I do not blame you. Don't blame you at all. So why sit on the van? The suspect was not involved in a car theft or a drug deal. He was in a hit and run. And every hour that passed, they were losing evidence. Exactly. You have to move in quick. I knew there was no way to say he was drunk at the accident, but he can make assumptions at 12:20 a.m. A driver on McLean, where there are lots of bars, could be drunk. And if they're taking off, they're obviously hiding something. A blood test as fast as possible can make your case. Right. I actually left the meeting with more questions than I came with. A police report states that they were able to get video footage of the accident prior to CJ getting hit, but not of the accident. But there are cameras right there. I was able to obtain a copy of the police report, see attachment 3, which states that they canvassed the crime scene for video footage and were unsuccessful at this time. What? That's a blatant lie, folks. That's a blatant lie. There's no way that they did not find any cameras there. So again, why would they lie? because it's a lie. I personally walked the crime scene and found 5 YPD cameras, 3 red light cameras, and over 22 other cameras in a 1-mile radius. And I know they are because I saw them myself, but exactly where it happened, there are 3, the ones that are owned by Con Ed. Did they get those from Con Ed? I received a call from a merchant who said I might be interested in footage he has in his possession. So I obtained it, and it's clear shot of the suspect waiting at a red light, then proceeding to make a U-turn and going westbound where he hits his brakes and appears to stop. Then you see AJ circling around to help his friend. Imagine this. Just picture this. I want you to picture this. This man makes a U-turn. Then he hits his brakes, appears to stop. Then you can see AJ circling around to help his friend. Imagine being 16. What do? You don't know what to do. The footage is clear. We should have been able to get a license plate number. Also in this footage shows that the back license plate has a light on it, and as he drove westbound, the camera should have picked it up. So why didn't the Yonkers police have this footage that night and arrest him within hours at the very latest, like they did to the guy that shot the bus boy at Duels on Yonkers Avenue? The guy lived in the Bronx. They caught that guy within hours. John Rubo, the councilman from District 4 that wants to sit down with Mr. Vincent E. Spano, did a press conference, talked on the Yonkers Voice, how they got him quick and they did a great job, and we have to shut down problem bars and establishments like this, and they did. They called on the mayor. They made a big old stink about it. They were very vocal and very visible, and they got Duels shut down. But did they mention the alibi? Did they once mention the alibi? The bar owned by former police officer Michael Hernandez, who is the brother-in-law or son-in-law, the son-in-law of John Spano. John Rubo. What about the problems with people being served way too much alcohol at these establishments and then driving home drunk, getting into fights, brutally beating on people? Have you seen that video, John? And guess who's the one that got in most trouble? The police officer. To all you young police officers, newly on the force, within 5-10 years, you swore an oath. Don't let these people get you into trouble. They're on their way out. Why did they not have that man arrested that night? Why did John Rubo not make a big stink? Why was the bar, the alibi, or whichever bar served him the 17 drinks, because I think that's excessive, and then allowed him to leave, not get investigated, get fined? This is a problem, folks. I've seen this on Lockwood. I got videos of people coming out of bars that are known city employee hangouts where they park city vehicles, coming out, stumbling, getting into vehicles. I've witnessed it and recorded it. DPW's deputy commissioner's son serving drinks at these bars. And then when something happens, they cover it up. Where's the footage? Why wasn't he arrested? John, why didn't you have this bar shut down? And so when you add all that together, what do you conclude? And so you can't blame the family or anyone for thinking the way they do. I obtained a copy of the police accident report from the DMV, and it shows a license plate number filled, but no name. Why? The date was August 4th, 2022 at 14/12/25. It's at 2/4/2/12/25, and that was 26 hours after the accident, or is that 36 hours? But in my meeting with the brass, they said they didn't have the plate number. It's my understanding once you punch in a license plate number, the owner's name pops up. Also, my meeting with the chief, the chief made it clear that the Bronx offered to help out with the investigation, but the chief declined it. You got it again. They want to keep this to as little as many small amount of people as possible. They don't want too many people involved in this. That's why Mr. Captain McCormick was the one that found the vehicle, right? But then they also stated Dolan fled the scene in a high speed, and they don't know where he went and that he could have gone into the Bronx. Why not take help from the NYPD? Exactly. Start looking at all the traffic cameras that have gone up, the ones that give people tickets all the time. Why didn't they go and look at all those? They should have, and they did. They did. But they knew who it was. Stephen called dad, in my opinion. This is my opinion. The family didn't tell me this. No one did. My opinion, Steve called dad. Dad called Patrick. And it was a plan that was hatched. To Anthony, that's my opinion. Anthony, I'm sorry. This is the text message for Anthony Cognello. I'm sorry, it's Tony Soleri again. I just wanted you to know I was deeply offended, but what you said, bad things happen to good people. Don't leave a boy on the street with their head split open and take off. Oh, my son is beside himself. When we met the other day, you mentioned that you were a father. How would you feel? My understanding that is this is good person brought this van to get fixed and works for Yonkers. I hope this is not what makes him good. He responded by saying, I'm sorry that I offended you. I was only trying to imply that this person would not be coming after you and your family because he's a good person. Good morning, Mr. Barreros, the assistant DA. Hope you had a good weekend. Just want to reach out. I know this grand jury is on this Wednesday. I've been talking to Yvonne, and we still have a lot of questions that have not been answered, so I figured I'd give you some homework for Wednesday. I know Liz called me the other day, told me that you didn't think it was a good idea for me to listen to the 911 tape because I'm the father of AJ. Well, I'm the father, and I'm asking to hear it. That's it. You don't decide. The main witness, well, I've been checking around and I spoke to a friend of mine who's an attorney, and he said, I have every right to listen to it. They bank on us not knowing. They bank on us on being scared. And those days are over. In matter of fact, I believe it's called the FOIA Act. So I'm hoping you'll let me listen to it on Wednesday. Also, we're trying to figure out a time frame from when AJ and myself with Detective Cognello on August 4th, 2022. How long did it took them to figure out who the driver was? Was it under 24 hours? We have so many questions, and now we are confused because of, sorry, I misspoke, comments from both Cognello and your office, which are raising red flags for us. We understand that little things like this, if he got help from somebody, doesn't matter to you, but it matters to all of us. I understand your main concern. And did they say that? That whether he got help from somebody didn't matter to them? I understand your main concern is getting a conviction and justice for CJ. Well, justice for CJ is getting a fair sentence. And anyone who tried to help cover it up, which is to me accessory after the fact, should also be brought to justice. That would happen to anybody else, any one of us. If you don't have a dad to call that's retired, that's still connected, you're going down. To us, that means everyone that played a part in this and those who helped him try to hide it, they want justice. And that includes everyone, again, who was an accessory after the fact. When we met last Friday and you wanted to talk to AJ about that night, you said you were going to go over his statement and you asked him a couple questions. To my son, it seemed more of an interrogation. For your information, not happy with this, but I'm over it. Then on September 2nd, 2023, you and I had a conversation before you went on vacation, and somehow in the conversation, the word a bounty came out with a price tag. Not sure if you brought it up, but it was said. All I know is within a half hour of that conversation, I had not one, but two detectives at my house waiting for me to come home and threatened to arrest me if I didn't give up my sources. That's what they do. They threaten to arrest you. They sue you. I'm being sued to give up my sources, but I already told them my sources. It's Google, Vinny, and Zaid. Threatened to arrest this man because he's asking for information. I hope you can see how I'm looking at that. It seems like somebody's protecting this guy. It also appears he has more rights than CJ. Exactly. And my son, AJ, who are the victims. The fact that I can't get straight answers from you guys also is bothering me about what charges are we going for now and how many charges are we trying to get on him. Once again, we are confused. We are both told by Cognello in your office there may be several charges pending on this case. After speaking with you on Friday, it sounds like you guys are concentrating on just leaving the scene of an accident which caused a fatality. Hopefully, I didn't give you that much of a headache. We'll see you on Wednesday. Best, Tony Soleri. This is the police report here. Flip this. Wish I could flip it. RC car 202, Simos and Carizio, along with and to you two officers, please do the right thing. I want you guys, you officers, to think about this. Think about this family. Do the right thing. When you go to bed, think about this. Are you helping cover this up? RC 202, along with truck 2, Thomas and Schilling, I'm sorry, 201, Clayton, 203, Hold, and 204, O'Lear, and responded to a report of a motor vehicle accident involving a minor pedestrian. Upon arrival, the assigned observed a young male, later identified as Christopher Hackett. Bleeding heavily on the ground with the FDNY medics. Attempting to render an aid. It should be noted, Christopher was bleeding heavily from the back of his head and was unconscious. The assigned followed the ambulance to Jacoby Medical Center where Christopher was admitted. The assigned made contact with Christopher's mother, Yvonne Hackett, who arrived at Jacoby Medical Center. The assigned also spoke with Dr. Dorza, the lead doctor for Christopher, who related Christopher had extensive injuries, including a fractured femur, fractured skull, broken shin, and possible severe brain damage. The assigned spoke with PC Anna Miro, Amiro, who had video footage of part of the incident. The sign observed the video footage, which showed Christopher along with his friend Anthony Solari Jr. riding e-vehicles eastbound on McLean Ave. It should be noted Christopher was riding an e-scooter in the westbound lane of traffic at the time of the incident. The video footage further showed a dark-colored Chevy van coming into frame at approximately 12:18 hours when Christopher would have been struck, stopped for a brief period of time before fleeing the scene at a high rate of speed. The sign attempted to canvass for further video footage of the incident, but was unsuccessful at this time. PK Solari Jr. responded to Detectives Division with his father, Anthony, to give a statement. E313 on the scene, FDNY on the scene, E313 on the scene, LT Koch on the scene, Sergeant Goff on the scene, DD notified, and Detective Bennett and Detective Cognatello on the scene. CSU notified, and Detective Specialist Walker and Detective, is that Specialist Romano responded on the scene. Is he related to any of the Andy Romano, Dan Romano? AI notified, and Detective Specialist Croston and Detective Specialist Mullen arrived on the scene. All of you detectives, did you not notice any other cameras? Were there no other cameras? Could you detectives who are working for the greatest police force in the country, that's what we say, that's what the people say, did you not find any other video cameras, any other footage that would have helped you? Honestly, find that man right away. Honestly. What happened? So, when the family is at the St. Patrick's Day parade with t-shirts saying justice for CJ, because they want the community to know and they want support from the community. And I get it, because this is dividing, especially the Southeast side. It's a tight-knit community. It's a great community, a beautiful community. I enjoy the St. Patrick's Day parade. It's an amazing parade. I have a lot of fun. It's great. But what's right is right. We have to do what's right. I'm going to show you here Patrick McCormick, Captain Patrick McCormick. Is this Captain Patrick McCormick? Donating to Mike Spano, Liam McLaughlin, who is the current Inspector General, who is very connected to that part of town, Southeast Side. And so it's very clear what's going on here. We just want justice for CJ. Justice for CJ. A 16-year-old boy died. We just want to, what's right? Do what's right. Do what's right. I'm so sorry to the parents. So he can bullish you far away from scrutiny, Mr. Hackett. Sapp is a sweetheart of a guy, but he is completely controlled by the mayor. They know that if they can win you and CJ's mother over with kindness and get you to throw in the towel, then the rest of us will follow suit so you can have peace. And they're correct. That's what it's about. Can the neighborhood get, yeah, how we do this? We have to speak out, spread the word. Absolutely. We need to support the family 1000%. Can the family bring their own lawyer to check things out? Yeah, I think that's maybe what they're doing. Don't trust any of them. To be fair, Rubo's trying to help. Tony, like I said this to my wife after the meeting yesterday. I don't hate anyone. I don't hate those guys. I don't hate anybody. I want to make that very clear. So when I say things like this, it's not because I hate them. It's because it's the truth. It's the truth. We're the good people. We have good hearts and we want to, and as Anthony was saying, we want to, believe in that. We want this to be like, you're this person, so you're going to do that. We want to believe in it. We want to, like the people last night at the meeting that are being pushed out of their homes. And they're doing it purposefully, and so the people are there saying, we know that you're giving your time and we appreciate you volunteering. But the fact is that they're there with a mission. And they're sitting there rolling their eyes on their phones. And they do this time and time again. And so I can't sit here and say, I believe that any of them really care. And now at this point, what it's about covering their ass. Cover your ass, right? And so now they're going to play this game. But this is what perpetuates this. This isn't the first time. And if we don't truly do something about it, it won't be the last. And so, sure, he's coming to the table now to sit and meet. But guess what? He should have done that from day one. The same way he did it at Duos day one, that night. He should have done it here. But he didn't, because he cared more about the nepotism system and protecting the good old boys club than he did about CJ and AJ. And so that's how I will look at it, and that's how I will respond to him. You can do what you want, and I will always respect that. But I just want people to know who they really are and why they're doing things. A kind person, a fair person wouldn't have put your family through this. And now it's cover your ass. That's all I'm saying, Yes, many months later, because they know this will have a major effect on the mayoral election. Exactly. Can you believe they have put that in our face? It's one thing to deal with this tremendous loss. Now we are being victimized. Exactly. The CJ Hackett family, AJ's family, they are the victims. So many people are afraid. I understand they are. And many people just don't really know to what extent they will go to protect themselves. Look what they're doing here. There's no reason why they shouldn't have had him immediately. He's from Yonkers. He's known. The cameras caught everything. The fact they allowed that to happen, that's not okay. And there must be some consequences for that. And we cannot let them talk themselves out of this. And for far too long, that's what they've done. It's time to hold them accountable. Fully accountable. We have an opportunity here to change things in this city. So it's up to the people. It's really up to us. That's why I keep my business in CT, and I was content, but this has opened my eyes. I don't want to believe it, but I'm beginning to see how people are. But this child, not a business we are talking about. You're absolutely right. You know, I learned myself when trying to open a business, and the issues that I had to deal with, and it's nowhere as what the family of CJ Hack is going through. But it opened my eyes up. That's the point. It opened me up to what was actually going on here. And when you try to speak up and you think, okay, well, let me just have a conversation with them. These are sensible people, right? These are rational people, right? These are intelligent humans, right? Let's have a conversation and we can work this out. You quickly realize that there's no working it out. They're going to do what they want to do. That's how they've been operating for so long. And anyone that's tried to speak up, they've shut them down by threatening them or giving them a job, or making them leave the city of Yonkers altogether. And if they have a business, they'll try to hurt their business. If they're employed or their spouse or someone's employed, they'll mess with that. And that's not okay. Like we cannot continue to live like that. We can't just continue to say, you know what, as long as we just whatever, just don't say. We can't. Like that's not okay. I can't live like that. I can't. I'll never be able to live like that. And I'm going to continue to speak up. And I'm going to continue to fight for change. And I'm going to continue to fight for justice for CJ, his family, for AJ and his family. Not because I want anything for myself, but because I want to see change. This is not okay. I met with 2 people here in the city of Yonkers today being targeted simply because they want their properties. And when they want it, they will just come after it. And that's not okay. It's not okay. I'm not going to, so we can't allow them to continue to do this. We have to, I want people to see who they are. To the people that came out to that meeting last night, I want you to see who they are. A lot of people are waking up and they're realizing it's corruption, but I want you to also know that it's almost evil-like, it's almost a real evil. Another stabbing in Rubel's district yesterday, directly across the street from the scene of a smash and grab 2 weeks ago. His constituents are growing tired of him and catching wise to his dealings across town. Folks, I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics. Thank you for watching. And again, my primary goal is that we see justice for CJ. And that means that the truth comes out. All the truth comes out. And the individuals that assisted or may have assisted, they're also served consequences, whatever that may be. But we must know everything that happened that night. The family deserves it, and that is justice for CJ. That's you, Vinny and John. Vinny and John, you sit down with them and you want to help them, then you make sure that they know every single detail and that the individual is sentenced to the fullest possible time, and ensure that it never happens again, and that no one sees another city vehicle at a bar parked that night being driven by a city employee who's going to take that vehicle home after drinking. That's what you do. That's how we get justice for CJ. That's how CJ's death isn't in vain. Some real changes must come about it. That's what we need. That's what the family should get. That's what they deserve. Nothing less. John Rubo. But I'm not sure, because I'm hearing John Rubo is dealing with tax problems. That's right. The tax problems are keeping him from becoming deputy mayor. But isn't Anthony Moranti his accountant? Yes, that's what I'm hearing. Anthony Moranti is John Rubo's accountant, along with a lot of other people here in the city of Yonkers, other officials. A little bit strange, but that's how they do it here in Yonkers. But Anthony, I saw you parked at City Hall yesterday where I got a ticket. Your license plate is a New York Giants plate. I always spot it. But I noticed one thing. It says tax help. I didn't realize exactly what it said. I just saw the Giants logo. I'm confused. So why does John Rubel have tax problems if you are his accountant? You didn't give him tax help? What kind of help were you giving him? What happened there, Anthony? And that's not good for business. If a well-known client of yours, at least known in the city, has tax trouble, you're his accountant, the guy that says tax help on his car, that can't be good for business. I'm Freddie Vasquez, Basement Politics, Unfiltered. Have a beautiful and blessed night. Yes, that's right. Justice for CJ. Do not forget what happened here, folks. We cannot allow this to go unpunished. I'm Freddie Vasquez. Have a beautiful night.
You're watching Basement Politics with my dad, Freddie Vasquez.
You're watching Basement Politics with my dad, Freddie Vasquez.
Thank you for watching Basement Politics with my husband, Freddie Vasquez.
Freddie wins.